How you doing, guys? It's Jem Jalal here, and
Tobias Mayer.
we are back, in our new home, 42 acres. This is a really nice venue to be at. We're very lucky to have this in Shoreditch, and yeah, get familiar with it because we will be here more often, won't we?
Yeah, we'll be filming here over time, inside and out, in fact.
Yes.
But yeah, it's beautiful space.
Really is. It almost feels like spring in here.
Yeah.
So, right.
And what are we talking about
Today.
Dependencies,
right? This is a way it always comes up, doesn't it? Like Scrum teams, they should have no dependencies.
Well, I actually I still say it. I say there is no such thing as a handoff in Scrum.
There's no such thing as a handoff.
No such thing as a handoff in Scrum.
So completely autonomous, like you can just get it done by yourself.
Whole teams need to own things. And in contradiction to that, I heard a really interesting quote from Bas Vodde, one of the founders of Less, who says his description of Less these days is to maximise dependencies between teams.
Maximise
dependencies between teams.
Is that contradictory to what you'd said?
Well, it's quite controversial, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, and that comes from Bas. So Bas is like
he's founder of Less.
He's
co-founder.
Incredibly experienced guy with Scrum.
Yeah.
So can we unpack that then? What does that mean? He's saying you need to maximise dependencies.
Create more? I mean, this is unpack is the right idea there, Jem, because we throw out these terms, not just that term, but all kinds of terms, without really thinking about the meaning of them, and they're sort of like nominalizations. Really, they can mean many things to many people. So if you unpack the term dependency, what do we mean by that? So there are different kinds of dependencies in life, aren't there?
Yeah.
You're married, right?
Yep.
Are you dependent on your wife?
Yeah, there's a level of dependency we have on one another. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. You're sharing a home. You're raising children.
Yeah.
One child. I'm raising children.
Right. So we depend on one another in the most simple way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a healthy form of dependency, right, where each person knows what they're responsible for, and they share responsibilities, and they do their part. Each person does their part, and you function as a unit.
Yep.
All right. And that's really when you go on to listen to more of what Bas Vodde says in that video, which we'll reference when we post this, is that there's a form of healthy dependency between teams. Multi-team Scrum, which is what Less is. You've got many teams working on a single product.
Yep.
And you don't want disjointed pieces of a product. You want one whole product. So of course there's dependency.
For sure.
It's when the dependency becomes unhealthy that we're in trouble. When one team is blocked by another team.
Right.
When someone can't do something because someone else hasn't done their part, that's the unhealthy part. And there's also this notion of, comes from the therapeutic community, of codependency. And I think we see a lot of that in our organisation.
Codependency?
Yeah, codependency is when you're dependent on someone else's sickness.
Oh, right.
Dependent on someone else's dysfunction, and you somehow become addicted to it. In the way that they might be addicted to a substance, you become addicted to the person who's addicted to a substance. And it's quite a common pattern you see in the addiction world. But I think it plays out in organisations as well. We get addicted to, we get codependent rather, perhaps codependent on the dysfunctional manager that we all like to talk about when he's not in the room.
Oh, right, like this.
Or the other team, right, the team that's not doing agile properly.
That's interesting.
The team that thinks they're doing Scrum but they're not. Those guys, we'll talk about them, and they're blocking us. But there's some form of codependency in that because we're not actually trying to solve the problem.
I'm with you. So what we share we share a dislike of some sort of entity, and we depend on it,
something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But how would that be if we were to make that contextual? Because I'm just thinking about that word, right? Maximise dependencies. What does that mean though? If in a Scrum team, the idea of like an entrepreneurial team, you can take an idea from your head and go to market. This was the vision that I understood Scrum to be. Maximising dependencies, I mean, doesn't that work against that?
Between teams.
Yep. Okay.
Specifically saying between teams. So maximise dependencies between teams. In a way that, go back to the marriage metaphor again, we want to maximise dependencies between ourselves and our spouse or ourselves and our children to create a unit, a well-functioning family unit where people are not arguing and fighting all the time and thinking it's your job and this is your job and you didn't do this and I didn't do that.
Yep.
And that's unhealthy dependency. I can't cook dinner because you didn't do the washing up.
Right,
That's
I'm with you.
that's the sort of unhealthy dependency, isn't it?
So maximise the right type of dependencies, because I guess when you make that statement, or when you hear Bas say it, maximise dependencies, it kind of feels like that makes me think a team would be less autonomous the more dependencies they have. Are you with me? Right, but when you kind of add a little bit of a bit of colour to it, and you say the right type of dependencies.
Yeah.
So what's the right type of dependency?
I don't know. Are you autonomous in your marriage? Do you have autonomy?
I have autonomous moments.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I could go to the shops and buy shopping groceries for the house, which serves a team goal. I could do that by myself.
Right. But so autonomy in a relationship, you know, perhaps going back to Victorian times, that the man had a lot of autonomy in a relationship. The women had basically none.
Yes.
Right? So that's not really autonomy. That's just power imbalance or something, right?
Yeah.
So we talk about autonomy now. It's like an equal share, perhaps something like that. All right. So I need to do the things I need to do to stay happy and healthy. So does my wife. So do my children. And so do my, you know, and the wider relationship with family and friends as well, and then the people we work with. So we want autonomy, but we're not taking autonomy at the expense of someone else.
Right.
So there's a mutual dependency between it. I need to make sure that your needs are met just as much as mine are. I'm not responsible for you. I'm not responsible for meeting your needs, but I can't just run roughshod over you.
Got you.
That kind of idea.
Yeah, I guess when I think about, though, have I really got full autonomy if I'm going out to get the groceries? I do depend on my wife to look after our child.
Exactly.
So somewhere in the link. Okay. How can
you're not working independently there, are you? You're absolutely dependent.
Not purely. But how can we make this meaningful? And I'm almost certain when people watch this, and this happens, right? They might not watch the whole video, and all they'll see is maximise dependencies. And this is
which is
great.
The headline, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Tabloid headlines.
Yeah, exactly, for all the wrong reasons. But for those people who are watching this and watching the full clip, and when they say maximise dependencies in our team, what we're not talking about is maximise handoffs. Are you with me?
Absolutely, yeah. I would still say, with that maximise dependencies quote, I would still say there are no handoffs in Scrum. And that still holds true for me. They can coexist quite happily. Bas goes on to use the word collaboration, high collaboration between teams, which is a form of, you know, the collaboration, that simple idea of I'm going to the shop to buy some food. I can't leave my 2-year-old, 1-year-old, 1.5.
2, yeah, there you go.
Almost.
Somewhere in between.
On his own. So I have dependency on my wife to be there with him. And that's healthy. It's a healthy form of dependency, right?
And when we're talking about, in terms of less, we said multiple teams working on one product backlog. We're saying teams should be able to provide value, but accepting that what they provide may fit into other teams' idea of value, and it's got to be cohesive. And we're better to collaborate to get there. And to do that, we need dependencies.
It's not so much we need the dependencies; they're just a natural part of life, aren't they? It's not that we're going out seeking them, but you know, if you're working with multiple people, multiple teams, all trying to converge around producing something together, you have to be talking to each other, and just the conversation is a dependency. I can't move ahead unless I talk to you. You could look at an individual Scrum team, just a single Scrum team, and say it's riddled with dependencies, shot through with dependencies. Every day we are dependent on each other to get the work done. We trust each other. We help each other. Right, and all of that's a model of dependency right there.
But the way it's been socialised, I felt a little bit of discomfort when I first heard what the quote was, and when it got unpacked, I got it. But you're socialised in Scrum and Agile, or I have been anyway, and it's all about removing dependencies. And the place whereby dependencies are supported or just managed, I think of SAFe. And I think of this diagram somebody shared on LinkedIn, which was like loads of component teams have got loads and loads of kind of like links saying, well, I can't get this to there unless I've got to go here to there. And it's like some crazy maze. And that's not the dependencies that we're encouraging, right?
No.
So I can see why people may misunderstand that.
Those are the dependencies. Those are the blockers, right? So do not maximize the blockers. Right, it's a very different thing altogether. Don't maximize the blockers.
You're right. Get some language around it.
Of course. Find fluidity and find support and find help. That's the kind of healthy dependency. When if I'm need to do something so that you can go and do something else, then let's do it together so you can move ahead and I can move ahead, rather than you just sitting around complaining that Tobias never does what he says he's going to do. He's always late, blah, 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 blah. And that's the codependency kicking in, right? Because you kind of get off on it. So not you personally.
I'm with you, yeah. But so to put some language around it, you're saying reduce blockers and increase the right dependencies.
Yeah, so here's another lovely term from the therapeutic community, interdependency.
Yep.
We want to encourage interdependency, right? So we're not, we can be autonomous, but we're not wholly independent human beings. We live in community, right? Teams work in community. We are interdependent. And that's a healthy way of understanding dependency, I think.
Yes.
And rather than just using the general term dependency, we can identify, is it a codependency we're involved in here? Is it some kind of unhealthy dependency? Or are we looking at a healthy interdependency where different people's needs are being met and we're converging towards the place we need to be?
And maybe we need more, I think we need more clean, or as the word explicit language. To say dependency is too generic.
It is, yeah. So when you hear someone say we have a dependency, here's that lovely clean language question there. What kind of dependency is that dependency?
That's a great question.
Let's start with that.
Yeah.
And that will take you somewhere interesting, I think, wouldn't it?
I think so. That's a great way to unpack it, yeah. This is great. I've learned a lot in that conversation.
Yeah, well, I learned a lot watching that little clip from Bas Vodde and Craig Larman talking about that dependency idea. So, again, we'll reference that, and I hope that we haven't misquoted.
Yes.
If
we have, we're sorry.
Exactly, yeah.
But
so, should we wrap this one up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for the inspiration, Bas.
And so our first gorilla in the new premises, which we shall be at again.
That I encourage you to interact, add comments below, subscribe, all that good stuff, because look, we do these clips and there's so much that comes out of it that can change the way we view things before. So, thank you.
All right, thanks for watching.